How about now? Can anybody hear me? Hey, Joey.
Hey, I
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you.
me?
I hear you now.
You can hear me now?
I can.
Yeah. It's not been a good day. Not at all.
Oh, I got echo. Never mind.
Huh?
I had the echo still going.
Yeah,
I couldn't hear you on the YouTube channel. But evidently I do now.
it's
I
the
can,
I guess stream it goes back to StreamYard. They didn't it somehow it didn't cross over to YouTube. So I got
yeah,
started late
They saying it's
today.
good now.
I
Yeah.
can hear you, and it wouldn't bring your video up there for a while. I went back and forth trying to get it.
Yeah,
Hey,
it
Bear.
didn't cross over from StreamYard to YouTube. And when I made the chat in StreamYard like you do, it
Mhm.
did not cross over to YouTube. So that's my fault. I guess.
I don't know.
I'm here now.
Electronics.
Electronics, they're not dependable. Let's start this all over again. Hey everybody, it's Bill with bees all day on Monday night. It's been a long day. I spent most of it in the bee yard.
That's
Got a
what I
late
did.
start, number one, because of that. And number two, it's just been a real bad day all the way around. So I'm sorry. Hey Bundy, I hope you can hear me now, so you don't have to talk amongst yourselves all night. So, hey Don, how are you? Let me try again. Hey Kathy, hey JT, Bundy, Tom, Todd. Looks like the gang's all here. So, what'd you do this weekend, Charlie?
Same thing you did. Worked in the bee yard
Yeah.
all day Saturday, and shot 2 different videos Saturday afternoon, and I put one up already, and it was windy. And then Sunday, a friend of mine passed away here several months ago, and they had a memorial service up at the one of them microbreweries.
Yeah.
And anyway, they had 4 bands. He was a musician and played in a very popular country rock band here in Baltimore back in the 70s and 80s. And so a lot of the musicians that he had played with, hey, Kathy, um, were, that they have multiple bands and stuff like that. So they played from like 1 to 5 yesterday. So I took off from the bee yard, and then today, I don't know. I didn't get really into the bee yard until 1 o'clock today. I started getting stuff out there this morning, and then honey customers came in, and let's see what else came in. I had a guy. He's a guy, a tree guy that wanted he's supposedly keeps bees, and he wanted a nuke, and I happened to have a, a queen that I was going to pinch anyway. And I went ahead and sold him a nuke, and so he kind of reminded me of why I quit selling nukes after I got to explain to him, the different parts of the woodenware and how they're stacked and put together. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you knew you were getting this nuke 2 weeks ago, and your moth infested ate up wax frames, which he didn't have foundation like we have plastic. He had wax and wire. They were totally, like all they were was strings and holes, and I'm like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
I don't understand you people.
Right.
And what was that? What was it called? Yeah, it's called Duragil. Remember that, Bill?
Duragil.
It was like the predecessor of regular wax and wire. It was on a sheet of like opaque plastic,
Oh yeah.
and they put wax on it, and then the bees would come along and take it all the wax off of it, and all you had was this piece of plastic sheeting in there. He even
Yeah.
had some of that stuff in there. I said, all this stuff, chuck it, you know.
Mm.
And
You probably
mine,
should have just told him, yeah, go ahead and put them in there. And when you need another nuke, just come see me.
Yeah, exactly. That's what yeah. Let me know when you're ready for your next nuke.
the thing of it is, Philip,
Yeah.
we talked about bees 10 years ago. He said, I don't have time to do it right now. I had bees, and he kind of got out of it, and seemed like to me completely forgot everything he knew about bees. But I was like, all right, whatever. I said, he didn't even have another 10 frames of decent. I said, let me give you a phone number. I got to text him at too, to call up the supplier here, get 5 frames of foundation with triple wax or double wax. And I, explained to him, I said, put some sugar water on them, feed them, all that stuff. Hey, Lee. Durabuilt was garbage. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yep. Wow.
So
That was
That is
probably all
that-
before my time.
That goes way back. The Durabuilt stuff, that goes back a little ways. Mm.
yeah, so anyway, I got that done with him and some other things, and I finally got out to the bee yard, and I went through the rest of the big hives right behind me there that I didn't get through Saturday. There's a book. Is it Wisco Presses or something like that? What's this guy's name? He puts out these little small bee books. He's at Nobby. He's a PhD guy. He's retired. Anyway, on the cover of one of his books was called Nukes, or Expanding Your, the Bee Yard. And it had all these nukes on there with all these different colors on this page. And I said, boy, I like that color and this color and whatever. And I went to Home Depot and picked out some color swatches. And that's how I came up with it. I had white. I have this purple and yellow. And the other one is green. It's kind of it's not one of my favorites. Somebody else kind of picked that out for me. And so that's what I use. And it's gotten down to the point now where I used all the paint that I had up, the gallon buckets of it, and except for the purple. Everything else has been used. So the only thing I got left is purple. Yeah, Larry Connors died. That's who it was. I forget. He's got a Wiki Bee Presses or something like that. Anyway, it was called the Nucleus Expansion or whatever it was. It was a nice cover on it. And I had bought a few of these books. So anyway, yeah, they're with WICWAS Press. And that's where I got my colors from that book. He produced a lot of different books, but to be quite honest with you, I bought a few of them and they just weren't written very well, I thought. So anyway, I went through the hives today and went through the big hives, and the big one here, the first one here, it's got the double yellows together there and the white on top and bottom. I got in there, was going to do the demery. I'm looking at it, and here's a queen cell in there. And I'm like, what's that about? Shouldn't be there. And then here's some emergency cells on the face of the cones and all that. So I went through the whole hive, frame by frame in the brood chamber area, and they're not an egg to be found. So I would say in the last 7 to 10 days, the queen had died. And she's a 2-year. Well, this would have been her second year. So I'll have a video coming out here in a few days about I taken those virgin queens that I had in my cell builder, and I dropped them in all the different hives that were queenless, and I had 4 of them over there there's a back rack back there where I have my 2-frame mating boxes, and I had set them up Saturday, and there happened to be a queen in there that I liked. She's dark looking and looks kind of like the ones that are always prolific for me. That always seems to be the dark queen. So I took her, found her, and she's marked, and she was on a frame, and I just picked her up with her frame with a little bit of patch of brood, went over there and just put her right into that hive. And I figured, well, it's been queenless for at least 7 to 10 days.
Hey, Lee, I couldn't agree more. The colors match perfectly.
I don't know. What's LSU? It's
Louisiana State University.
Okay.
He act like he didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
Rodney says he usually finds purple. Well, really, you got to remember something, guys. Purple. The Ravens are purple. The football team here in Baltimore.
Yeah, but they're a darker purple than that.
Yeah, because you can get Ravens purple for an extra additional cost. And I says, I don't think so. And so anyway, I dropped her in there. And I had actually the hive that Michael 21st Bee frames are in. That went queenless on me here. And it was Saturday, and it was at the end of the day, and I was just wore out. And because I had worked in the mornings from about 9 o'clock on all the way through all day Saturday. I actually just, we were open for the public to come in for up until noon, but I don't think anybody really came in. There might have been 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
So it was at the end of the day. I had this queen in the cage, and I'm like, that's right. I had already been, earlier that morning, I had went through that hive, and I don't know why I after putting it back together the first time, it was like I should have just went ahead, took the time, and went through that hive and got it fixed. And I didn't know exactly what I was going to do at the time. And so it wound around. I got other things I had to get done, put queens in other hives that main thing I did with, like in my video that I showed, I think, the last video, where I went through that hive frame by frame, and I cut out any queen cells or cups and things like that to make sure the acceptance of that virgin would be on the positive side in the high 90s or something like that. So, it took time, and it took time to get those videos shot. And it was at the end of the day after two different videos I had just got done. I just went over that hive. I'm like, I've been in this hive once enough, and I had seen my notations, and when you get tired, you don't pay much attention about things. You just want to get done.
Yep.
And I released that queen in there. And then you go to bed that night and like, well, wait a minute. I had a note on the top of it that said it had queen cells in it. And I'm like, shit. I was like, all right, I'm going to get out there. So I got out there today. And I think that was the last. I got through these 4 big hives. Today I grafted another 30 cells. So I went to my number 1 hive there. That was the one I chose to do all my grafting because I really like that queen and the genetics. Get in there. Here we got a situation. Go through that hive. Yeah, it's queenless. Cut out all the darn cells. Walk around there, grab that girl out of that 2-frame mating box, put her frame in there, and close that up. Get the rest of these, and then I go to the next hive, which is that one. It's got it's white on the bottom, and then it's got purple and then yellow. She's the next one in line that's came out of the winter, robust and really making honey. And so I found me a grafting material out of that. Did my grafting, got all that put together, put away, the cell builder all, lined up and set up and everything taken care of there. And then I went down on the line and what the other ones that were left. And then I kind of went back towards the barn way. So got all them taken care of. Had one there. I found the queen. I marked her. She was a 24 queen. I couldn't remember what the darn color was. What was the color last year?
Green.
Was it green? Yeah, it was green. I didn't have a green marker. I said, I'm going to paint her yellow. Because she's going to, I'm going to get rid of her anyway. So I painted her yellow. And, hopefully I'll see Brad from up there in Manitoba because he's going to be mighty proud of me. I have been taking my bare gloves off with my bare hands, and I actually picked the queen up off of a frame and held her and dotted her and then let her back onto the frame with no, marking devices whatsoever. So did that on one of the hives. And then I was going down the line. I said, well, I'm going to start looking for these queens as I go through them, and found another one, and she was a runner, but darn, she flew off on me. I don't know whether I flew off and I grabbed her and got her in my hands, and then she flew out again. And I'm like, okay, well, their box right here is one of her that she come from. So, and, so I don't know whether she flew it back into the hive, into that box sitting right there or what. So I had to put a notation on that to, look for her the next time, see whether I can still see eggs. Then I know she's back in town. So I got down to the one where I had put that virgin in there, 2 days ago. And I said, all right, we got to find her. And I said, we got to cut these queen cells out, before they emerge. And so I started looking at the 21st B frames, and there was some basically all been chewed out.
Really?
Yeah, they chewed all them darn cells out of there. They all, they were all chewed out, and I would, cut them out with my hive tool just to clean them up a little bit. There was one or two maybe didn't quite get chewed out. They were hiding. I got all the way down to the bottom box, and I don't know, went through about 8 frames, and there she was walking around, no problem at all. So I said, all right, we're in good shape today. So we just put it all back together, and that was the end of that was pretty much the end of the day for me. I did have another nuke I've been building up to return it into a 10-frame honey production hive. And It had, I don't know, it had 15 frames. It's 5/5/5. And out of that, I'd say there was probably 10 frames of slab brood.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay. So I decided to pull some brood frames out, put in some drawn wax so she'll lay down in there. And I stacked them up where I was, checkerboarding some waxed frames that they had partially drawn and they hadn't laid anything in. There was a third box where I had put a third box of foundation and they were drawing it out. So I kind of put that and brought some brood up into that third box where they had partial foundation, but it was actually drawn out for the most part. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what is it? Every frame, there's 2 frames of bees or something like that when they hatch out.
Yeah, something like that.
I was like,
Yep.
that thing's going to explode here in the next couple of weeks or next couple of days, probably in a week or so. So I said, I'm going to put me another box of foundation on there and then bring some brood up into that all the way up to the top. So when I get done with all this, I want to be able to drop all those frames into 2 medium boxes, and they'll be pretty much drawn out and populated and things like that and all that. So that's what I got done today. Time I got that was done was about 6 o'clock this afternoon, and everybody's been looked at and I don't know. I've gotten Saturday night. I got a phone. Let's see what's this. Yeah, Saturday night I got a phone for, do you have any queens? And then Sunday I got a text, do you have any queens? And then today I got another text, do you have any queens? So the word has gotten out.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. All you have to do is tell 1 or 2, and then it spreads like wildfire.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've got 1 queen left right now.
Well, they all want mated queens. So I got virgins. You tell them that, they don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
You're
like,
right.
I have no idea. But you know something? I'm starting, let's see, what's his name out there? Corey Stevens
Yep.
sells virgins.
Uh-huh.
Mark Miller sells virgins. Ryan Williamson across the mountain from you sells virgins. Sells
Yep.
virgins. He just sold 4 of them out there to Darren out in Oklahoma.
Oh yeah.
Can't think of his name now.
He sells virgins to people, so I mean, I don't know if he thinks he's spreading his genetics that way or what he thinks he's doing, but that's what his idea is. So,
well, anyway, I'm seeing a trend here when it comes to queen rearing that people are getting into more selling virgins instead of mated because it's less work.
yeah, that's right, Sandy. It's Darren Jerome.
Jerome's bee
Yep.
farm. That's correct.
Yep. It is.
So the other problem with that is when it comes to queens and genetics, the way I understand it, if you don't get the right drones with the queen, then you don't get the benefit of all the genetics there.
Yep, that's true. Very true. Yep. That's a lot truer than everybody thinks it is.
Well, Oddly Pacific, it's like anything else. You don't want them to last you don't want them in the cage no more than they have to be. All these guys are shipping these queens through the mail overnight. And so I had my queens. It was raining for 2.5 days. I put them in the cell builder, let them get fed for those days. And then I planned on Saturday and I took those queens out and walked them on in to those hives, and that kind of thing. So
Now, are you, oddly specific? Are you talking about a queen that's been a bank of queens and a queen in another hive, or are you talking about the just having a virgin in a cage that you're waiting to put in? Which way are you talking about? How long will they last in the cage? If you just take a virgin, put her in a cage, and hold on to her, if you don't feed her, she's only going to last 3-4 days. Now, if you on a banker, you can keep her there up to 30 days.
yeah, like if you're banking mated queens, I don't think it's, what is it recommended? No more than 2
No,
weeks. At the
no
very,
more than 14 days.
is it 14 days?
Yeah, it's 14 days.
Because her ovaries will shrink down and they don't
Yeah.
seem to get back up and running again.
Yeah, they don't come
Now,
back up to speed.
Virgin, I can tell you one thing: if you don't have attendants in there, you ain't got a day or two and should be dead. From what I experienced, and maybe I'm not doing it right, but in a let's say an incubator situation.
Well, she's got to eat. She's got to have. She doesn't necessarily have to have attendants in the cage with her, but she has to have bees either in the incubator, and they have to have access to food and water. They will feed the virgins. They will feed every one of them in there. But if she's just in a cage waiting for you to put her in somewhere, you've got 3 or 4 days before she's going to starve to death.
Well, I've tried it to where I've tried to put crystallized honey, and then there's maybe runny honey and water, and that's why when they were hatching out Thursday morning before work, I had my cages and everything, candy cages made up. I brought them out, I marked them, I put them in a candy cage, and I had, I don't know, a dozen or more queens, and I took them on that JZBZ strip and took them right out there to the cell builder, and I had that 3.5-inch shim. I had all this planned out ahead of time. Put that shim on there, and put them, cages in there on that, and they all come up and fed them. And when it did Charlie water? That's right, water.
Water. So let's see, Philip. Yes, if they're in a banked in a hive, they will last up to 30 days because they're getting fed on a regular basis, and they are getting fed by bees in the hive. If you're sitting there trying to feed them and keep them alive, they won't last very long. 3 to 4 days max before
15 days to get made. Well, 2 weeks. So yeah, 14. Yeah, about 15 days to get mated. Now, I would say that number is going to go down because if she hatches today and she's put in a 2-frame mating box, let's say, she will stay in there 4 or 5 days. Ovaries get developed, exoskeleton gets hardened, the wings get dried and hard so they can fly. Now, if you're banking her, you might say, in a cage, all that's happening while she's in that cage. And so I would say as soon as you release her, she would probably be going out to get mated within a day or two.
Yep, Tom's comment, she needs to eat right away. Yes, that's correct. She does. Mm-hmm. So if you, even in an incubator, you still need to have some nurse bees in there with them to feed them. If you know that you're not going to be there, you need to put some nurse bees in there and some fondant and it's just.
But how are you going to do that in an incubator?
Oh,
I've
it's
never
easy.
seen that done in an incubator.
It's easy. Very
Oh,
easy.
You know, like Ian Stepfropper, he's got a fancy dancy incubator. They got the cell down in a foam, a star, or not a star foam, but a soft foam rubber holes, and the the queen is in that hole. That was now like Tom said there about first emerges. She is starving and needs to eat right away, and
Yeah.
that's exactly right. And
Yep.
I got up that morning on a Thursday of this past week, I guess it was, and there was one in there that had hatched overnight sometime, and maybe a couple hours before I got up in the morning, and she's down on the bottom of the hair order cage dead because she just, I guarantee you, she starved to death.
Yep. That's what she did. She starved to death because that's the most important feeding. It's
Right.
like any wild animal.
So I was watching Ryan, and I emailed him. I don't know what maybe I need to call him up. I'm going to get him on my show. He was talking about banking queens, and he had his cage. He had a banking frame, I'll call it, and he had those easy peasy. Looked like to be they were easy peasy banking cages in that rail. And what he does is he puts the queen cell in the cage, in the frame, back into the and banks them in the cell builder. And when they emerge, presto, I got all these nurse bees right there jumping on them to feed them right away. And he said, in his opinion, that he said, look at this queen here. Look how big it is. It's as big. It looks like it's almost been mated and it's still a virgin, but it's been fed from the first minute it came out of the cocoon. And he lets them come out of the cocoon into that cage, and then the bees feed them right away. And he was saying the time you go from the incubator to time you put them in, let's say the banking hive or whatever, that lapse of time, whatever that may be, a half an hour, or whatever, he thinks is detrimental to their health and longevity. And I kind of agree with him from my experience so far about doing this stuff. And then, like I say, Bill's what he just said there about, just said about getting the honey on the queen. That's a bad situation too.
Because she'll wear herself out. If she gets stuck to the cage or something like that, she'll wear herself out trying to get loose from it because, honey's sticky. We all know honey's sticky. It's like glue. It'll glue them right to that cage.
I had a little marshmallow stuck in the end one time, and I made the mistake of setting it back in the incubator and didn't come back and get her right back out. She was okay. She made it, but when I come back to get her, she was stuck to that marshmallow because it was too hot in there. 92 degrees is too hot for a marshmallow. It'll get sticky. And she was stuck to it, but I was thinking go put her in a nuke somewhere anyway, so she survived. But I had one I tried to raise a couple of days like that. I try to get them in a nuke as soon as they emerge. And I had one I had a couple of days, and I went and turned her loose on a frame. And she just took off running. I said, "What are you running from?" It's like she was scared to death. And she dove into a honey cell and buried her head in there. She was hungry. She stayed in that thing about a whole minute sitting there eating.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. They're little pigs when they want to be.
Yeah.
Yep. And then it's like Tom says, the virgin expels a tremendous amount of energy chewing her way out of that hell. And that's why she's starving to death.
Yep.
and all that. So that's why I he, uh, Ryan over there, when he said that, I said, yeah, I have to agree with you
Yep.
on that.
Hey, Clay.
There was another guy that I talk with. He does a lot of queen rearing in himself, and he's developing some genetics over the years too. And he was kind of saying that you can do this and that in the incubator and keep them, and he's I can keep them in there for 10 days and all that kind of stuff. And well, maybe so if you know exactly how to feed them and keep them fed and all that stuff.
Yep.
But I've always been like, if I get a mated queen in a regular 3-hole candy cage, I'm taking my finger and dipping it in a cup of water and getting it, that water will tension across that real meshy screen. So they got water to drink, but I get real tense, I'll say, as far as, getting worried, because once I get a mated queen, I am like, I want that thing in the hive like tomorrow, like yesterday. I want it in there as fast as I can get her in. Even overnight, I have, you can't do much about it because it's nighttime, but I get real tense about, having queens sitting on my desk or whatever and all that. Hey, Mark, do you put your queens in the incubator and let them hatch out, or do you put them in your cell builder in cages and let them hatch out? So,
Come on in
well,
here,
anyway,
if you can, Mark.
I didn't even get my incubator out of storage this year. Didn't need to. I bought my cells and let some of them make their own queen, and I bought cells and I bought some queens. So
And then you put the cells directly in the hive, didn't you?
yeah,
Yep.
I had them in a little container when I brought them home, but I put them right in the hive.
my problem with that is people like I had sold queens. I did queens about 4 years ago, and the first, I guess, 5 years ago, first year, I was selling cells and virgins and mated. And then you get these people coming back, well, them cells weren't no good and whatever. I said, okay, well, there's no way I can prove they weren't. They might have been duds. Like I had about 7 or 8 of them here that were duds. And so then next year I said, all right, no more cells. They got to be virgin queens or they're mated queens, one of the two. Yeah, I can see that they're queens alive and all that stuff. And that's one guy. He wanted them. He bought them, like say, 4 or 5 years ago. I guess it's been 4 years ago. And I said, look, the cell is going to hatch today. And it was a Saturday, I think. And same stupid thought process about queens is just as people with nukes. And it's like, well, I'll get around. I said, no, you're not going to get around to it. You're going to do it right now. You're going to leave here and go to your hive and you're going to put this cell in there. I said, it's got to stay at 92 degrees or 93 degrees. I said, but this one here is going to hatch. And I mean, today. And then I get a text about a half hour later. I'm going to the hive right now, and it just hatched in the cup that I had given him, to keep the cell in, where it was paper towel in there to keep it warm and so it wouldn't bounce around. And I said, yeah, well, just walk her on in. No problem. All that.
I like to do that too.
Well, this is like my video. they were not paying attention to her whatsoever. Now, the one in the cell builder, they were. Well, the fact of it is, they didn't have any queens, and they were wanting a queen. So anyway.
So
I never did anything like that, Dodd. Okay, that was my answer. Hatch in the incubator, then they go directly back into the cell builder. That I make my splits.
then he introduces her a week later.
My biggest thing is that time period from the incubator, but till you put her back in the bank, into the cell
Yep.
builder. I'd still say there's that little teeny window there is highly critical.
Yep.
So I'm going to try. This queen rearing as far it's not new to me, but as I'm grafting on a weekly basis, it's like, okay, we got to keep up here. And why would you have to candy release it? Because I mean, you don't do that with a cell.
Yeah, but see, they feel the cell is their own at that point.
Yeah.
They don't know any better.
I don't know. But anyway, it's a quick learning process for me as far as how to manage the different steps, I guess you would say. So I'm gonna try some of them and let them hatch out in the incubator and see what happens there. Or not the incubator, but the cell builder.
Well,
Now, my question is, if you got queen cells being made on this side of the cell builder, and you got cells on this side of the cell builder trying to get hatched out, are one going to get not as much attention as the other? Or are they both going to get the right amount of attention?
yeah, see, that's the thing right there.
I don't know. Do I have to make a queenless hive just for hatching?
Mark, I agree with you wholeheartedly. That is the problem with a week-old virgin. They fly, and they do fly away. They will
That's
fly
true.
away quick.
Well, right there proves the the science behind what I've been saying. They
Yeah.
stay in the hive for about a week, everything gets right, their wings, their skeleton, their ovaries, then they're able to fly and fly out to get mated.
Yeah, you pretty much have to start that time from the time she emerges when you count that. Not from the time you put her in there, but the time you think she emerged for flying.
So she's going to come out of that cell and you put her in a mating box. She's going to stay there for 4 days or so, and then she'll be able to fly.
Yeah. So if she's a week old and you put her in there, she's going to go. She may go that day or the next day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So anyway, that's my game plan. I got it set now to where I'm grafting on a Monday. Everything hatches on a Saturday. And then the following Saturday, well, it'll be capped on a Saturday. And the following Saturday, when the queens will emerge. I
Yeah,
have
go
mating
ahead.
box, oddly specific. I have home built 2-frame mating boxes.
Yeah. We
Now
use
you can buy a queen castle, which is like a 10-frame box that you can divide it up. Normally, I think three or four sections,
Yep. It
and do it
typically it's 3.
three sections. I think that there are 3 frames. Are they, Bill?
Yep. And we turn those 3 framers into 2 framers because we put a 1-frame feeder in there with them.
And all that.
Plus we use mini mating nukes too
Yeah, I've
as
never tried.
well. Yeah, it's fewer bees that you got to put in there. So
That's some little teeny things. I've never.
yeah, like
I've
I had
never.
like I've got sitting on the counter.
Yeah, I never fool with them.
Yeah, they put a couple bees in them, and they're fine.
I know,
Bill,
Dan.
have you ever noticed, like on those mini mating nukes, when that queen leaves, she probably pretty much leaves by herself, doesn't she? To go
She
get
will. She'll take maybe 2 or 3 attendants with her.
Have you ever
But
noticed when notice one coming back if she's got a larger group with her? Like she attracted other bees when they came back?
sometimes, yes, and they will stay right with her, and the mating nuke bees in a mating nuke won't kill them. But if she's being chased back by a bunch of drones, which I've seen that happen too,
Yeah.
it's not pretty when
I've
they get
never.
when they get back.
Years ago, I seen a queen come back from a mating flight. I actually, because of her size, she flew right into onto the landing board. I'm like, man, that was a queen. It was
Yep.
exciting to me. Now, oddly Pacific says everything was very interesting about the mating boxes. I mean, all you got to do is go ahead and subscribe to my channel, Sawma Charlie's Bee Farm, and there are I'll be having a video come out this week, me actually populating the 2-frame mating boxes that I've built, and you can see them. I kind of show them how they're made and all that. So just go to my YouTube channel and you can see stuff. So
Oddly specific.
Pacific. Let's be Pacific.
Yeah.
all right, I see that's Brian. That's the school teacher coming out, and
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean those little mini mating nukes, they're nice. Cup of bees, about a week and a half ahead of time, and they can draw all of that comb out in less than a week typically. So, especially if you hang a
well, now
cell
down
in
there
them.
at Hardeman's, now they have it's a box. It looks to be homemade to me. Homemade box. It's divided down the middle, and I'm going to say the thing is probably, I don't know, 16 inches by 12 inches or something like that. And on one side, it's got this little homemade feeder in there, and it's got 2 frames, and they're about that big. I don't know, 6 inches wide or something like that. Maybe a little bit. Well, I guess they're not 12 inches wide then. I guess they're maybe the box is about 8 inches or something. And so anyway, they got 2 frames in there and a feeder on this side, and there's a bar in the middle, and it's got a sort of like a canvas flap on both sides. It's stapled in the middle. So they flip this side up, they go in there, they pull the 2 frames up, they find the queen, they cage it, and they fill that feeder up with juice, and flip that side down, get on the other side, and there's the other queen. And when they come back, they just put a queen cell on each side, and I guess they come back in, what is it, a couple weeks, and do that. That's how they do it. It's not as real teeny weeny as the ones that you buy.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I don't know whether it's a certain size box that they made themselves or whether you can buy them or not.
I don't know if you. I don't. Hold on, let me look it up and see.
Hmm. Yeah, Brian wants to talk about Bob Benny laying Varoxan on top of the frames instead of hanging them. Now, Brian, I just seen a video of who was that? It just came out. I don't know whether it was Ian. No, it wasn't Ian.
Bob did it Sunday.
Maybe, yeah, that because Selena was doing it. It was they were spreading them apart or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he made mention that came and said it wasn't Varoxan. It must have been another product from Canada that they laid them on top of the frames. They put 4 strips on an angle and they made spacing. So I guess the bees could get up around them and all that.
Here, I'm going to show you what you're talking about, Charlie. I got a picture of it. Where'd it go? I'll show you here.
That's not it.
That's a 4-way mating nuke.
Yeah.
There's an entrance there. There's an entrance there in the front. Then there's one on the side and one in the back. But that's a 4-way mating nuke.
That's not what I've.
There we go. That may be what they have down there.
I've got pictures of it. Let's see.
Then there's 3 ways and 2 ways. Some people call it 4-compartment mating nuke. Some people call it 4-way.
Yeah, Queen Castle, you might say.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Queen Castle.
I didn't notice. What kind of lid does that have with it?
It has.
Does it have some kind of inner cover to keep them separated? That's pretty cool.
That's what I'm looking for. Oh, it's a migratory cover that sits down on them. So when you open one up, you open all of them up. So yeah, I understand the tiny plastic one. Yeah, you can do a 2 or a 3. You can do a 2 or a 3 frame nuke. You can, which are they're super simple to build. You just cut down, take a 10 frame box, and split it in 3 sections. It breaks out to 3. I think it breaks out to 3 frames each box is what it does. Or if you do a 4,
I did that with 4 sections one time.
Yeah.
I would rather have the 3 frame section.
I would too.
Because the 4 openings there, you put 2 frames in it, But it's hard if that queen is walking around on the floor. It's hard to get your hands down in there to get her.
Right. But the lid is the hard part.
Yep.
Unless you bring that board up, the width of another board that you're going to cover it with, that lid's got to be down on there tight. And because if you don't, they'll leak. So you almost have to use the individual lids for the individual sections as like an inner cover. And then you put a 10 frame cover on top of it.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, you're going to get water down in them, that's for sure. With as much rain as we've been having this year, yeah, I'm surprised we haven't lost more than what we've lost. No, I wouldn't hang OA pads between them anyway. Like you said, Russell, I'd do them on top, not on the cone. Or you can get
in their way.
You can take that 10 frame box and split it in half, and then you got 2 4 frames. Because when you do a support hive, that's what you've got. You've got 2 4 frame nukes. You split that bottom 10 frame in half, and then you set a nuke on each side of it. Somebody keeps digging in.
Good night, Eddie.
Hey, Eddie. Good night. Sorry about the mistake at the beginning, Eddie. So yeah, we checked all the hives today, put honey supers on. Everybody. And I got beat up pretty bad the last 4 hives.
Huh.
Yeah, I got beat up pretty bad on those last 4. And those are the 4 that are sitting over to store. I got beat up pretty bad on. So.
What do you mean?
Oh, I got stung in places that people shouldn't get stung. I'd put it that way.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Me and the wife we went through the main yard, my biggest yard, yesterday, I think it was, or the day before. And this morning we put boxes on what needed boxes, and we pulled a few frames of honey. Today we went to another yard that just had 5 hives, and I think 3 of those we pulled a few frames of honey and added frames back in and added extra boxes to a couple of them. I've already pulled like 265 pounds just pulling frames at a time, spin them out and put them back somewhere.
So Troy wanted to know how the honey flow has been up here. I just texted him back, and it's been pretty good so far, but I think it's starting to dwindle a little bit. I'm not seeing quite as much pollen coming in right now. So, but they're still working. They're still packing it away. So
I've got several hives with 3rd boxes packed full of honey. It just ain't capped yet.
So I've got 4 boxes that have 4 supers on them, and everybody else has got 3 that I can pull. So, and
I probably could have pulled some today that wasn't capped, but I'm not going to rush that. If it's capped, that means they're done with that frame. They ain't going to do nothing else to it.
Yeah.
So I pull it, spin it out, and then they can reuse it and make it fatter if they want to next go round.
Yep.
But I don't know. I just had to add boxes. I about run out of equipment again. I think I've got 2 medium boxes, and I've got 2, I think 2 or maybe 3 deep boxes. I don't quite have enough frames to fill all them, and I'm trying not to use anymore. That's why I'm pulling some honey a little at a time. Well, I won't have to buy. If I keep buying, I won't ever make any money off the honey.
Yeah. Well, I've got count today. If it holds true to form, they should fill these supers that went on today. They'll have them done by almost the end of June. And I'll pull them July 4th weekend. So by counting what I put on today, I should have between 25 and 28 boxes of honey. And I weighed one that we pulled off a hive just to pull it off and look at it, and weigh it, specifically to weigh it. It's 63.5 pounds.
All right, there's 2 photographs of what they have down in Georgia, and that's their mating boxes. All right, there's the one. There it is, sitting there with the lid on it.
Oh.
That one there is sitting with the lid on it. It's got a screen up there is a vent hole for the queen to the right side of the box, and then the divider in the middle, if you can imagine that, and then the little gate there, that's the entrance for the queen on the left side of the box.
Yep.
Now click on the next photograph, Bill.
Hang on a second.
All right, now there's a closer picture of the same view. As you can see down the middle, they got it stapled, and that's a piece of basically canvas that's been propylized because it's kind of stiff now. And they'll flip that one side over, and there'll be 2 frames for wax foundation, and then a feeder in there. It's a little homemade feeder. I think they made it look like they made it out of like a Luan type of thing. I'm not sure what. Something like that. And it's kind of tapered, or not tapered, but it's only about 1.5 inches wide, maybe. Something like that. It's got a kind of made like a regular cap and ladder feeder. A lot of times, the bees will draw a comb in that thing as a ladder. And sometimes they were down there when I was here a month or so ago. They couldn't find the queen, so they're shaking the feeder out on the lid, and sometimes the queen's down in there, or she's on the wall of the box. And then it's like you see some of these pictures where they have a little bench for the seat and a little cup. You'll see it in that video I had posted, and that's what they use. That's what that bench is for. It's not to work honey hives, it's to work these here mating boxes. And they'll flip that side down and flip the other side up to cover, go through the same thing, find the queen and cage her and all that stuff. And then they'll let's say they do so many 100 of those boxes in the morning, then they'll come back at afternoon with cells, and they'll pop cells into every one of them. And of course, this row might be for like they raise Russians and Italians. So one section of that field or that wooded area, it's inside them pine trees down there, will be for Russians, which usually I'll say that JZBZ cup is red. And then the other ones might be blue or whatever, which are just for Italians.
Yeah. So that hive is what is typically called a support hive. It's split down.
Can you buy them, or did they make them?
Yes, you can buy them. Yes. Oh, yeah. I sell them. and you can get 2 4-frame nukes to go on top of them as well. Because when you split that 10 frame in half, you get 4 and
Well,
4.
that's a Michael Palmer hive.
Yeah.
Right. But this this has got a frame in there about 6 or 8 inches long. That's all that frame is. It's just like those little ones that you just showed there, where it's got 4-way.
Oh, they go sideways.
Yeah,
they're
they
not.
go
They're not.
No, they're
Okay.
sideways. When you're in that front of them, you're fit like a filing cabinet.
Yeah.
It's here's the feeder. You pull that out. It's got, your rabbits are on the right and left side of you. And then you put 2 little teeny,
Yeah, because there's one at each corner, and there's an entrance for each one.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's a 4-way mating box.
it's that one's 2. If you look at it, when you bring that picture back up, see where you got the staple.
So it's got the mini frames in it.
It's got the mini frames in it. But see the cover and see right down the center. You'll see those little staples.
Yeah.
See the staples? Right and left of that, there's a queen on this side and a queen on the opposite side. And then you're not sitting facing it this way where the staple, you're sitting, if you look in the picture, look to the right, and where the lid is, you would be sitting on that side or the other side of the box, not where these holes and screens are. That's not where you sit. You sit on the wall that's solid. And there's 2 frames for the bees to lay brood in, and a little mini feeder in there, and that's it. And I don't know
So how many mini frames is in there?
4?
And on each side?
No, 2 mini frames on one side. She gets to lay 2 frames.
Mini frames.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm confused.
It's nothing like you see
I am too.
manufactured in the mass manufacturing business.
It looked like it held regular frames to me.
No, it ain't that big. It's only about that wide. Maybe a foot. Maybe a little bit. Maybe, yeah. It didn't. I don't know.
Okay.
I was looking for ones where I had actually looked inside, but I didn't take any shots. That's been back in 2017. So I think it's homemade, to be quite honest with you.
It probably is, because I'm not seeing anything commercially that's even close to it.
No, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that was like 3 or 4 frames in each side over there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Regular size frame.
It's a cube that's split right down the middle with a divider board in the middle. 3/4 inch divider board. You got this side of the box next close to you, and you got it away from you. And it's like a filing cabinet. It's a feeder and 2 frames.
Wow.
And all. Same principle as that one that you've seen commercially there. But it's not, my boxes that I made are made to fit a medium full-size frame, 2 frames with a little bit of wiggle room in there. And I did have some boxes that would fit deeps, but I'm out of the deep business, and I cut them boxes down here a couple weeks ago and made them into medium boxes. But they probably made them themselves, just like the 3-pound cages for shaking bees.
Yeah.
During the winter time, they'll make 25,000 of them during the winter time. That's what they'll do during the winter with a small amount of help. Now, when it comes to queen cages, the 3-hole jobs, they buy them for, I think, for Man Lake. They'll buy them by the cases,
You mean the wooden ones?
the wooden ones. Yeah.
Yeah, they're California cages.
No, not California. 3-hole.
I was going to tell Mr. JW. I shared something on Facebook today. He needs to go look at when he gets a chance.
They buy the original 3-hole where they pack the 1 hole full of candy. I got
Yeah.
a video of that where they packed a hole full of candy. They put a piece of paper over top of it, sticky paper, and then
Yeah.
they staple that damn little wire on top of it with staple gun. And then the candy side, they put the cork in, and then they have the other side open, and that's what they used when they put the queens in down there. But we were down there, and Man Lake sent him something new they're coming out with. They got, I think it's a 3-hole plastic cage, queen cage, something plastic, He said, well, here, we're going to send you, let's say 100 of them or whatever. Right. You get all that, and they were putting all that together down there.
Yeah. The other name for them is a California cage.
Well, California cage is the one that's got the nipple that you stick in the end of it.
No.
That's the one I'm thinking when I hear
that's
California
the
cage.
easy peasy cage. It's terminology is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never have messed with those mini mating nukes. I just use regular nuke boxes. What little bit I do.
That's a California cage.
Yeah.
A true California cage.
Yeah, that's it.
But they call it the 3-hole California cages as well. Because they're all wood. So yeah. It's been a long day. You know that?
Yeah.
Very long day.
I'm supposed to be going in another bee yard in the morning.
Yeah.
See what it looks like. And then it'll be time to start all over again.
How many hives you got all together this year, Joey?
I don't even know. I probably got 35-ish, 38-ish, somewhere in there. But all of them not going to turn into production hives this year.
Yeah.
Some of them so slow requeening themselves.
Yep.
Now that's what I call a California cage.
Yeah, I just showed a picture of it. But the other 3-hole cage is all wood as well. So
it's wood cage, but you got this one. It's got some kind of a plug.
Yeah.
It's got candy in it.
A lot of dead space.
Yeah.
Dead air.
So what are you talking about, Clay? Oh yeah, it's
Been
that
a
one's been a
long
long day.
Yeah.
He's had a long day too. He's been pulling honey today.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's the next thing I got to do. Set up the extractor and stuff like that. And these hives here are getting too big to manipulate with the hive lifter.
So
I remember when it used to be kind of exciting to get out there and pull your first honey of the year. But I don't know. I must be getting old because now it just seems like a chore.
Yeah, Troy's asked a good question too. Have you ever used excluders before?
Well, the first thing is he's in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania,
No, he's
where's
in
that?
Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Oh, Harrisonburg, Virginia. I think you're
Yep.
kind of behind the 8 ball when it came to putting the honey supers on.
Yeah, it's a little late to put them on. So, I mean, but you can still put them on. You got to have something up there to draw them through it. So put a frame of brood in the very bottom box and draw the bees through it.
Yeah,
And
see,
they'll start coming through.
Yep. And that's why the Demery works is I put brood above the honey supers, and it's a magnet to draw them bees up through the queen.
Yeah,
queen
it
excluder.
is.
that's
And
what I was telling them another day. You got different kind of bees, not necessarily genetics, but you might have one colony that you don't use the excluder, and they'll build a honey dome and never go past it, no matter how many boxes you put. They'll build honey up there, but never go past it with brood. You got others that will just go all the way to the top with brood and work their way back
Yeah,
down.
and come back down. Yep.
And then you got others, when you throw an excluder on there, it never stops them. They take honey up there and raw comb and everything.
Yep.
And then you got those others that just seem like it's a ceiling to them.
now,
Yeah.
Nate,
Four
Troy,
different types of bees, and they all the same genetics.
Troy said he put his honey supers on in April. I guess
He said he put the excluders on in April. Yeah, just take a frame of brood and put up there.
that'll draw them up.
That'll definitely draw them up. Then they'll start going through it.
He said he's in Harrisburg. That's just barely north of me. And if you guys are hearing me all right, I put 2 bait, drawn comb bait frames, I think I call them, up in the supers. And they're about 20-25%, drawn out in them boxes.
Yeah. He said Harrisonburg.
Oh,
That's in
okay.
Virginia.
My bad.
Yep, that's in Virginia.
My bad.
Clarify that, please, Troy. So, how's the other legend doing tonight? You doing all right?
Is that me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. I saw Charlie this morning for a little bit. I wish I could have hung out all day with him.
Yeah.
But I've been into bees. I needed to get to my Demerid hives, and was real happy with what I found in most of them, and I added another one to the list, so I got 10 of them Demerid right now. So,
well, Clay, I'm reading Harrisonburg,
yep, Harrisonburg,
not Harrisburg.
Yep, my bad. I was all excited. I thought there was somebody in my neck of the woods.
Yeah.
But no, I'm real happy with my Demerid stuff, and
Good. How are they doing?
What's this?
How are your Demerids doing?
I think they're doing good. Now the Demerids, they have more, they've all got 2 or 3 supers on them, and they're drawing faster than the stuff just above a queen excluder. So they're moving. I'm happy with it so far. So far, so good.
That's good. So what are you gonna be doing this week?
Me?
Yep.
I'm hoping tomorrow to go down to my I'm gonna say what the Georgia Queens and what are left from my Georgia packages. And I'm gonna give them some more drawn comb. I'm gonna let them, those 30 some, well, it's 40 some colonies now. I'm gonna let them, draw comb and make brood, and then when my next round of California queens come in, I'm gonna pull them out, the queens out in a small split, and drop the new queens in, whatever they've got drawn and whatever brood they have, and then I'll push those, give those a week or two, and then I'll push them out into my yards. So I got about 100, well, not 100. I've probably got about 80 drawn comb frames that I'm going to get mixed in with those, probably 2 in every one of those, little Georgia splits, if you want to call them that I'm trying to get built up and grown here over the next couple, 3 weeks.
Yep, that sounds like a plan. Sounds like you got it laid out this week.
Well, I'm trying to make sure the more I'm in it and the more Charlie and I talk about it, and Bill with you too, is queens are the central key to everything. I think they've burned me hard in the past, and having good queens, what I think of or what I hope is good queens, out there in all my production hives. I'm trying to really gear up that I'm squared away with that, and kind of working on what my winter plans are going to be, and how many I want to have on honey for next year, and making sure they've all got good queens in them that aren't burned out, and just kind of crunching the numbers a little bit right now.
Yep.
You weren't on earlier, Will, but my hive I've been grafting off of, she burned out today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, actually probably about 7 or 10 days ago. Yeah, I got in there, and here I had a bunch of emergency cells and stuff like that, and went through that hive, and no eggs, no larvae or anything.
Did you find her?
Huh?
Did you find her?
I didn't find her anywhere. I didn't work, what happened to her.
Yeah, I didn't know if she was
I
gone.
went over there to my 2-frame mating box, and I had that one dark queen that it looked good, like some of them carnies I get in. And she was on a frame, and I just picked the frame up and walked it over there, put it in that hive, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
There you go.
And I got about 5 or 6 of them down through there. I got these cement, like a brick, you might say, up on their end, so I can look down that row and I say, all right, there's the ones I've, put virgins in. I won't have to fool with them for at least a couple weeks.
I stumbled into one of my big production colonies that was queenless today.
Yeah.
So I gave them, they didn't have any egg or brood. And I thought, well, I'm going to take a frame of egg and larvae that I think I would like, something I would normally graft off of. And that's what I gave them. I mean, it's got egg in it too, but I thought, well, I'm going to give them something and see if they can remake themselves, and until I come up with a queen for them or another direction to go. But normally that's what that would be, is let that thing sit for 2 weeks and hopefully they requeen themselves. Actually, just more than 2 weeks, but
just like we were talking earlier today about, these hives that were not all that, they're their second year for honey season, but they're burning out on me, like Brad down at Cajun Homestead, where his hives, he has to requeen every year, and Joey does too, where about a year and a half, and that's about the life of that queen down there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like they're burning out for me. They're a year and they're going into their second year, and it's like about a year and a half old, and they're done. So anyway.
Yeah, and I started going through marking some of them like we talked about too, Charlie.
Mm-hmm. Definitely nice to mark them. I marked a few of them today. One of them flew out away from me. I don't know whether, definitely was the queen, she was kind of running like a virgin almost. I guess she flew back in the darn hive. The box was right there right next to me.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens. I marked it on there, to check for the queen and eggs, whatever. By that time, the problem you got and I got this week is it's supposed to start raining again.
Yep.
I think Tuesday, Wednesday, or something like that, or Wednesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, it's supposed to start raining again here.
Yeah, Wednesday it's supposed to start for like 3 days up here.
It rained here today.
It did.
Yep, right after I got through spinning out honey.
Man.
I know my son, he wanted to cut hay, and we had like a 3-day window here over the weekend, but it's been cold. There's no heat to dry anything out when
Yeah.
hay. And it's been overcast and cloudy
Yep.
and all. And it's no good drying days. There's a lot of folks that cut hay, but I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's all gonna rot on the ground.
well,
There-
we cut hay last weekend on a Monday, and he cut it. He cut it. What was it? Saturday late or something. You know, it was down for 3 days.
Yep.
And but he cut a field that was real light. You know, it didn't have the density.
Yep.
And it was, you know, it was stuff that would dry quick because it was thin. And that's why we went ahead and cut it, because it was a rental property.
Yeah.
And we got it in and got 100. You know, the last day on the last grouping of bales, that was the driest. The other stuff was a little bit moist. And but good enough for round bales and cow hay or whatever. So, but like he was saying, he said, I don't think it's going to be cloudy and cold. And I mean, I've been running like today, I'm running around in a flannel shirt with long sleeves on. And here it
Yeah.
is, almost June,
Yep.
you know. It just,
Well, you're looking at rain Tuesday and Wednesday, high 60 in the low 60s.
there you go. 60.
Yep. And then the second full week of June, the 8th through the 14th, they're calling for rain every day that week of some sort. The 8th and the 9th is supposed to be nothing but rain those 2 days. And then the 10th through the 14th, it's supposed to be partly sunny with rain. And it's just high in the 80s, but in the 60s at night. But
well,
and
like
then
I picked up a couple of them hives there with that lifter, and I looked around and I looked up underneath that bottom box that sits next to the excluder, and they're not capped.
yeah,
Those hives, I don't see any wax cappings at all. They're heavy.
They'll do that sometime when the flow just trickling in.
It's heavy. It's heavy, but they ain't capping. At least not there. Now there's a couple nukes down there that's got some pretty white cappings on a box of 5 frames. Government controlling the weather, yeah, right.
yeah, sure.
I may not pull honey tomorrow. They're calling for 20% chance of rain tomorrow, 20, 24, 30%. But I'm in Louisiana. That could change in a couple hours.
Yeah, it
Well,
could.
I don't know. Tulip poppies talking, but Nate's talking about tulip poplar. It bloomed here about a week or more ago, and it's been raining, you know, every third day, seems like. And I don't know. I don't know what whether it's just gonna go, you know, the blooms are all gonna go away and that's the end of it for this year.
We're getting a lot of elderberry here right now in my area.
Yeah.
That's
Is that a
probably
tree? Or what is that? A tree or what?
yeah, a big bush or a tree. Yeah, kind of.
Well, that was Nathan from out there, Duck River, talking about, I guess, it's persimmon trees. I don't think I never seen a persimmon tree. I thought that was some kind of a fruit.
It is.
It is.
You only want to try to eat it when it's ripe.
Exactly.
Well, he was
Just
saying
run
that
your mouth up.
he said that his history behind that tree was they used to make block planes out of it because it was so hard. And they don't do much of that anymore. I don't like say
Yeah.
around here you get poplar trees and oak trees, and that's about it. I don't know.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of the what do you call it? Formosa
Yep.
Formosa tree.
Yep.
So most of got a lot of that here this year too.
Now, see up here, we had one of those trees, and it was in the corner of the house up here years ago when I was little, and we cut it down because it was kind of a trash tree. And now I've been down your way, and like you say, it seems to be everywhere down there. Here, if it isn't planted for an ornamental tree in your yard, you don't see it at all.
Well, it's making a comeback because it disappeared for a while. When I was growing up, they were everywhere. And then a few years ago, they all just disappeared. And 4 or 5 years ago, they started kind of trickling back in. And now I'm seeing them everywhere I go, all over the side of the highways and everything.
Yeah.
But I didn't know they made honey till just like last year. I think somebody said something about it.
Yeah, Matt, that's what Nathan said. It was related to the
Ebony wood. Yep.
Yeah, which is that's your fingerboard hardwood.
Yep.
It's invasive. I don't know. I mean, what is invasive? You know,
I know.
They talk about tallow. It's invasive. Well, hell, it's been here. What? Didn't the Frenchies bring it over here 300 or 400 years ago?
Yeah.
It's been in the country for so long that Miles will call it
The native plant.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, a lot of folks, they've been they wanted to release something to kill it and all. I said, well, don't you think it's a little bit too late for that?
Yeah. Sometimes the terminology of invasive gets confused. Just like the tallow plant, it's invasive. It really is invasive. If you go through and start trimming, thinning trees out, it will take over any of that ground there if you don't do something with it. That's invasive. Some people call honeybees invasive, but they're not really invasive. They're feral. You know, they hadn't always been here. They were brought here, but they're not really invasive. They're feral.
Yep.
And you got trees here that some people call them invasive. They just grow like anything else. They don't take over.
Yeah, but you know something? If you'll, there's the gal, she's a Indian out there in California or something like that. What is her name? She talks about, you know, people talking about the honeybee not, you know, invasive here, you know.
Yeah.
Kirby. Her last name's Kirby. And she's a PhD of some sort. And she's got fossils of honeybees found in this country or in this continent. So she says they were here and we just replenished them, you know, when the settlers or when the, what was it? When the pilgrims or whatever came over here.
They were here before the flood, huh?
They were here before the flood. Yeah. We just, you know, brought them back over across the road.
That's what it is.
Well, everybody.
Now, Tom says, what is it? No, black locust is listed invasive due to suckering. I don't quite understand now. That was what Matt says. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead, Bill. It's time to quit.
Well, it's after 10 o'clock. I know tomorrow's a work day. Today was a vacation day. Tomorrow's a work day.
I don't know about vacation.
Again, I'd like to apologize for getting a late start, rough start tonight, but I was behind the 8 ball from the beginning. So sorry about that. I'll do my best not to let it happen again. But I appreciate everybody coming out and listening. Charlie, Bill, Joey, hang on, and we're going to shut things down. So good night, everybody.
All right.
See y'all later.